Coming up on Network Africa, Senegalese soldier dies in clash with Casamance rebels. Global alert issued for officer accused of Gambia coup bid. And Ethiopia forces enter former bastion of Tigray rebels. Welcome to Network Africa. I'm Anne Nwawadu. A Senegalese soldier has been killed and 4 wounded during an operation against separatist rebels in the southern region of the country. The soldier died in the locality of Bignona, where the army has been conducting operations these past few weeks to block attempts by the movement of the democratic forces to set up a new base near the border with the Gambia. According to local media, at the time of the incident, the Senegalese forces destroyed hemp fields. The MFDC has waged its campaign to break away since 1982, but they signed a peace deal with the government last August, hailed as the first step towards a permanent end to one of Africa's oldest active rebellions. The area, that Senegal's southernmost region, is almost separated from the rest of the country as a tiny state of the Gambia. Officials also accuse the rebels of illicit trafficking of cannabis and wood and of seeking refuge in the Gambia or in Guinea-Bissau to the south. Meanwhile, the Gambia's Vice President Badara Aliyu Jove has died in India. President Adama Barrow announced that the Vice President died after a short illness, although he did not mention whether he was receiving treatment in India. Mr. Jove has not been seen in public for months now. Mr. Barrow picked him as Vice President after being re-elected in December 2021 for a second term. The International Police Agency, Interpol, has issued a red notice for foreign nations to arrest a military officer accused of plotting to overthrow the government in the Gambia last month. The red notice for a low-ranking Gambian officer, Lamin Jadama, brings to 8 the number of officers identified as suspects in the alleged coup plot. Gambian officials say he is a fugitive from justice, and any person caught aiding or colluding with him will be dealt with according to law. 7 of the accused, including the alleged ringleader, Lance Corporal Sana Federa, has been arrested. They appeared in the High Court in the capital, Banjul, on charges of treason and conspiracy to commit felony. 2 civilians and a police officer were also in court on charges of treason and concealment of treason. Justice Bissara Mahoney ordered the state to file the indictments by January the 23rd and also ordered 2 unrepresented soldiers to get lawyers or for the state to provide them with legal aid. One of the few benefits that have come out of the conflict in Ukraine is the mutual recognition of Ukraine and Africa's need for each other. Speaking live on our special coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, President Emeritus, Corporate Council on Africa, and the former President, African Center on International Leadership, said that Russia, which already has a foothold in Africa, is now seeking to expand its influence. He added that the realization of all this will depend on peace being achieved.
I think an important lesson is the fact that Ukraine has learned that Africa is important. I don't think that they had that same sense. They simply hadn't had enough embassies around. Suddenly they're now moving and increasing their number of embassies and diplomatic presence in Africa. So I think Ukraine has now realized that Africa is far more important than perhaps they were taking for granted. The food situation worldwide, I think that's been an important lesson. The fact that I don't think most of the world realize that half of Africa's grain comes from Ukraine and Russia. So it's in the African interest to see this war ending as well. I think that there's a lot of potential in terms of increase in trade after this is over. I think there's going to be more broad-based dialogue, certainly, and I think that Africa could benefit significantly after this war is over. Right now, this war is going to impinge upon Africa as well. It already has in terms of the food supply in the Horn of Africa. Some food is reaching that, but there's still the corn harvest, for instance, of Ukraine hasn't been completed now, and that corn also goes largely to Africa. But because of the war, the corn cannot be harvested. So how that is going to affect food supply and supply chains in Africa remains to be seen. But I think another benefit of this is that I think Africa realizes and will realize more and more the importance of agriculture on their own continent. Again, Africa could supply the entire world food supply, and it could be an enormous economic boon and will be in the long term. So I think that all this is opportunity, but the war has to be stopped as soon as possible. Otherwise, the ramifications are going to be tremendous and could be extraordinarily tragic for the world.
Ethiopian government forces have entered Arigrat, which is a northern town previously held by Tigray rebels in the recently concluded conflict in the region. Residents say the soldiers entered the town on foot, while others used buses and military vehicles. Fitsum, a resident of the town, said things were calm, but then added there was widespread fear in relation to what happened before, but nothing has happened so far. There's been no official statement from the Ethiopian government or Tigray authorities about the entry of federal forces into the town. The troops are expected to retake federal military camps and security installations. Provisions of essential services, including electricity supply, telecommunications, and banking services, have resumed in parts of Tigray following the signing of a peace agreement in November 2022. In a surprise move, the head of Ethiopia's Supreme Court, Mirza Ashkenafi, and her deputy, Solomon Areda, have resigned. No reason has so far been given. Judge Mirza, a former women's rights activist, was appointed Supreme Court president in 2018 in a move that was seen as a testament to the reformist agenda of the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed when he took office. In the late 1980s and the early 1990s, she was a judge in Ethiopia's High Court. But later, she founded the Ethiopian Women Lawyers Association to help women in need of legal advice. One of the most famous cases in which she was involved was made into a movie, with Hollywood star Angelina Jolie serving as the executive producer. She's being replaced as Supreme Court president by Tewodros Miheret, a legal academic whose appointment was approved by the country's lower house of parliament. Now let's head to South Sudan, which is still struggling with the resurgence of intercommunal violence. It has been worrisome for the UN mission in the country, and the head, Nicholas Haysom, has emphasized the importance of elections to stabilize the country. Haysom also says that elections will allow the country move forward towards a peaceful and productive future.
It will be crucial that South Sudan meet all its critical benchmarks, particularly those that are time-bound, and this will require a sense of urgency in the coming year. As I shared with the Security Council, my fear is that slippages in meeting the timeframes will have a domino effect on key benchmarks that will be crucial down the line. Progress needs to be accomplished this year, 2023, not next year, and benchmarks that have been missed need to be recovered. The electoral process must be carried out in a secure environment, free from violence and intimidation. It must be complemented by the necessary political and civic space to allow for open dialogue, debate, and campaigning. This requires dealing with the fault lines and divisions that have fueled violence over the past decade. Self-evidently, those conditions are not here yet. Creating the environment where elections can take place requires South Sudanese to engage each other, putting the interests of the country first. This violence and fighting, disturbingly characterized by tribal undertones in many areas, is particularly damaging. It poses a real threat to the gains achieved so far and could even derail the peace process. Every one of these conflicts leaves behind a legacy of bitterness and division.
Police in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have reportedly fired tear gas and live bullets at people protesting against the presence of regional troops. The East African Regional Force, composed of soldiers from Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan and Burundi, were deployed in November 2022 to enforce peace in that part of the country. But activists have accused it of inaction and called for protests today in the provincial capital, Goma. At least 2 journalists were hit by what are believed to be tear gas canisters, but they survived without injuries. 2 other journalists have been taken into police custody. And just yesterday, the mayor of Goma had banned the protest, saying that only representatives of the activists will be allowed to drop a petition at his office. The president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, has said the M23 rebel group has not fully withdrawn from areas seized in the country's east, accusing the militia of faking an agreed pullback of its forces. Regional leaders brokered an agreement back in November last year under which the Tutsi-led group was meant to withdraw from recently seized positions by January, as part of efforts to end a conflict that has displaced at least 450 people. It has also sparked a diplomatic crisis between the DRC and neighboring Rwanda. A spokesman for the M23, Lawrence Kanyaka, said that President Tshisekedi has only this to say: it is the government that does not respect the ceasefire. It is also continuing to arm armed groups. Earlier in January, an internal United Nations intelligence report said that it was not possible to confirm the M23 purported withdrawal from some areas due to continued signs of troop movement, and its analysis indicated that the group had seized new territory elsewhere. We head to Kenya now, where the President, William Ruto, has made sensational accusations of a plot to abduct and kill the head of the Electoral Commission in the run-up to the announcement of the presidential results last year. Mr. Ruto was declared the winner of that presidential election, which was held in August 2022, taking up 50.5% of the vote amid dramatic scenes at the vote tallying center. But at the time, the Electoral Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati said that he had done his duty despite receiving threats. During the meeting with the commissions and independence officers at State House, Nairobi, the president claimed the plot to abduct Mr. Chebukati was sanctioned by the highest office. And after the break, in just a moment, a Boksburg update in South Africa: bus blast. Death toll has risen to 41. Bring you the details in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. The death toll in Boksburg tanker explosion has risen to 41. The incident occurred on Christmas Eve when a gas tanker exploded after becoming stuck under a low-lying bridge. Some people in the immediate vicinity were killed. Vehicles and buildings were also damaged. Gauteng Premier Paeza Lefuzi says that the police have concluded their investigation and are ready to take the matter back to court. Leading Tanzanian newspapers have largely ignored a video circulating on Twitter of a memorial for a national and who allegedly was killed in Bakhmut, Ukraine last October while fighting for Russia's Wagner Group. Tarimo Raymond was a student in Russia and was reportedly recruited by the group from a prison in Moscow. The video shows men in military fatigue also holding candles around a casket draped with a Wagner flag. on which are a portrait picture of Raymond, 2 medals, and a certificate. None of the major Tanzanian news outlets have so far carried that story, and there's been no comment from the government's official channels. On a lighter note now, Afrobeats front-runners Burna Boy, Davido and Wizkid emerged biggest winners at the 2022 installment of the Africa Union's All-Africa Music Awards, AFRIMA, on a night African brightest stars failed to make appearance. The trio received their prizes in absentia, leaving fans in host city Dakar in Senegal disappointed. Our next report takes a look at the big winners of the evening.
The big night of African music celebration, the Africa Union's All-Africa Music Awards held at the Dakar Arena in the capital city of Senegal, and some of the big names in contemporary African music walk away with the prestigious golden microphone trophies. Even though big-name acts, including Davido and the Grammy winners Burna Boy and Wizkid, were not present, they still picked up the big prizes of the evening.
We want Africa to embrace Africa. We had a big nightmare getting people on flights. You know, flying around Africa is not easy. You know, to get to certain countries, sometimes you take two planes and a boat ride. You know, I've done that before. So, you know, we want to make it easier, and I hope that it becomes easier as the years go along. But also, we got to get corporate Africa. They're huge multinationals that operate across the continent. Africa needs your support. We got to get you on board. It is very important. You know, we're in Senegal. We might be in Ivory Coast next. We might be in Kenya next. We might be in South Africa next. Who knows where we go? But we're going to be going around Africa for the next 10 years. I'm going to make sure that this grows. This is, forget the Grammys. This is AFRIMA. We're huge.
The self-professed African giant picked up the biggest prizes of Artist of the Year and Album of the Year. His fellow Grammy winner Wizkid took the golden microphone for Best West African Male in the regional category. Davido ended the evening with 3 prizes in the bag. One with Adekunle Gold for the track High in the Best in African Pop. Another with Focalistic on the Champion Sound in the Best Electric category.
Davido feat Focalistic.
His final win is alongside the Sunday Choir for the track Stand Strong in the Best Inspiration category.
Et le gagnant du prix de la 8e édition de toute la musique africaine AFRIMA dans la catégorie de meilleur artiste masculin en musique inspirante de cette année est Davido featuring Sunday Service Choir from Nigeria. Make some noise for Davido, please!
Adekunle Gold followed up his win with Davido with a solo prize in the Best Artist in the African Contemporary category.
Mon pop africaine cette année est Adekunle Gold.
Et nomination Black Serbia with Coup the Traveler, Ghana. Burna Boy, Last, Nigeria.
Ghanaian singer Black Sheriff and Nigerian singer Ashake, who had beautiful runs in 2022 with numerous monster hit singles, lost in the Song of the Year and Breakout Artist of the Year categories respectively. While the Kweku singer lost to Ivorian singer DDB, Ashake lost to Marwan Musa from Egypt. Self-professed #1 African bad girl Tiwa Savage, who was present at the event, lost the Best Artist in R&B and Soul Prize, but singer Thames got the better luck as she won the Best Movie Soundtrack with the Black Panther Wakanda Forever prologue, No Woman, No Cry.
Ghana, Thames and Marvel, No Woman, No Cry. Black Panther Wakanda Forever prologue EP, Nigeria.
The winner is Thames and Marvel from Nigeria.
Wow. Now we have our in-house entertainment correspondent, Bidemi Dairo, to tell us more about Afrima and all that happened there. Hello, Bidemi. It's good to have you on Network.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, why the disappointments? Davido, Burna Boy, Wizkid, how could they disappoint their fans that way?
Oh, well, from my conversation with the organizers, they were invited and a few of them had shown interest to come. But it's difficult moving within African cities, you know. So like for me, for example, it was almost impossible to get a flight to get to straight to Dakar. We had to go through to Banjul first, and a series of flights were cancelled. So that could be considered as one of the reasons that they couldn't come. Then secondly, superstars really want to have the guarantee that they will take home the prize eventually. They don't want to really attend an award event and not win the big prizes. So, and because Afrima is not the type of award that says, hey, gives guarantees and stuff, it's been audited by the PricewaterhouseCoopers Corporation. So it's almost impossible to give that kind of guarantee. So most of them would rather stay away and not attend because of that, yeah.
But how did Nigerians fare at that event?
Oh, well, we got the big prize, the Artist of the Year at Burna Boy. We got, Burna Boy also got the Album of the Year prize, which are like two very solid awards for the evening. The third, the big three, Artist of the Year, Album of the Year, and the Song of the Year. The Song of the Year eventually went to Ivorian singer DDB, you know, and that's my first introduction to him. And after listening to him, and he also had a performance on that day. It was so he was deserving for him. But basically, Davido got 3 awards in lesser categories. Wizkid won in the regional category. Wizkid did not win in the continental category, won in the regional category, won the best male in West African prize. So yeah, good outing. Adekunle Gold was there. Thames got the soundtrack, you know. So yeah, there's Afrobeat is the leading genre on the continent. So it's not surprising to see how much we were able to dominate some of the categories that we were nominated in.
But how do winners emerge at that awards?
Okay, so they have a class of jury spread across the continent, you know, and then they determine who the nominees eventually are. They sift through all of the nominations coming in from across the continent. Then from there, the nominees are announced, and then majorly for major categories, it's now left in the hands of the fans. So if you can promote your nomination, put on social media, do all the sort of promotion to canvas for voting, that helps you in getting the awards.
Okay, but what effect do you expect to see this having on the African music scene right here in Africa?
Okay, so that's it's as it stands now, you know, Afrobeat is like the biggest genre on the continent. Getting a lot of global attention. Yeah, global attention and stuff. But see, I spoke with DDB, who eventually won the Songwriters Song of the Year awards. I spoke with him, and I thought he would be excited that Afrobeat is getting all of that. And he said, oh, congratulations to Anglophone Africa, because this is only helping the English-speaking part of Africa. He was like, for so long, everybody, the Francophone speaking artists have been trying to get attention into the other parts of Africa. But since Awilo, since Fally Ipupa, it appears like it's almost been impossible, because language barrier and all of these things. So having a platform where all of these artists could come up, and even the Francophone artists can showcase their performances, because the bulk of the performances were dominated by artists from the Francophone part of Africa. So I think it's an opportunity for them to showcase their art, mix with the rest of African artists, the Afrobeat guys, and hey, you never can tell, collaborations and things can happen and push up the...
All right. I wish Tiwa won something.
Yes, it's sad she was present at the awards, and unfortunately she was beaten to that prize.
All right. We hope to see more wins for Nigeria and indeed other Francophone countries too. Thank you very much, Bidemi Dairo, for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and that's a wrap on Network Africa for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.